Bonjour.
Welcome to So French, the show about the twists and turns, intrigues and insights to all things French.
Every 2 weeks we select the best, most interesting and fascinating of French news stories, all brought to you from our studio in the heart of Paris.
My name is Sara Bertilsson.
And my name is Stefan de Vries.
Now this week, France's top political power couple, since almost 4 decades, goes on trial. Politicians Isabelle and Patrick Balkany accused of hiding 13 million euros from the French authorities.
And 3 Bs in the competition for what part of the French Frenchiness should be protected. Will it be the Baguette, the bistro, or the bouquinistes that should get an official heritage stamp from the Unesco? We'll try to make up our mind what we think is the most important French tradition to preserve.
Now first though, European elections drawing closer.
Yeah.
At the end of this month, 47 million, I think, something like that, people living in France will vote for the 74 French MEPs in the European Parliament. It was supposed to be 79.
Yeah, but our British friends, they don't want to leave us, so they're still there. So indeed, there will be 74 French MEPs and over 570 in general, in total, including the Brits. So it means that there will be less French MPs, but also less Italian, Dutch and Swedish, and a couple of other countries were supposed to get more MEPs than before. So yeah, they're on the ballots, and there are no less than 34 parties in France alone competing in this election.
So is there any heat on? What would you say?
I don't have the impression.
No election fever.
No. I think there was a little bit discussion about the fact how they are going to use the 34 different election posters, because in France...
It's getting crowded in front of the schools,
yeah.
Because here in France, just to remind our listeners that here in France, so the in front of the school or the election or the voting stations, you have all these panels where, you know, the parties can put up their posters and publicity, etc., and information, of course. And it's getting very, very crowded.
Yeah, because they have one panel per party and they don't use it both sides. So it's a big mess. Whereas in other countries, you just have far more smarter systems. So it's very crowded on the in the election this year. Well, what are the polls saying?
Well, what is interesting is that, you know, this election has been sold, we could say, a little bit by Emmanuel Macron, the president, as a duel between him or his party, La République En Marche, and the far-right party. So the Rassemblement National,
yeah.
Former
Front National.
Front National. I'm losing the names of the parties here.
Yeah, because they change them so often.
Exactly, and so it's been sold as this duel, and also not only between these two parties, but between two completely different visions of Europe. One with a very pro-European agenda, and the other one, of course, with a more nationalistic agenda, take back the power, stop integration of the European countries, etc. And it shows that, well, the polls show that, you know, these two parties are the frontrunners. Clearly, there are around 22%, I think, both of them.
Yeah, indeed. And it's pretty stable for the last couple of weeks. Sometimes the Rassemblement National, Marine Le Pen, is a little bit higher than Macron, and the other week it's the other way around. So exactly. It's really very tight, around 21, 22%.
But there's someone coming a little bit from behind here.
Yeah, there is.
And who would have thought? It's the French Conservative Party's candidate, actually. His name is...
François-Xavier Bellamy.
Exactly.
Very young guy.
Yes, and he has been doing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. He has, you know, improved the party's numbers. And what people are saying that it seems like he's managing to take back the voters, those core conservative voters who went over to the La République En Marche party after all the drama that's been going on in the Conservative Party ever since the presidential elections in 2017. But it seems like he's managed to sort of bring back some of those voters, which means then, of course, that, where things could change is that, the La République En Marche party could actually lose voters.
Absolutely.
Over these last couple of weeks that are now.
Yeah, and so the Conservatives, Les Républicains, are now at 12.5% in the polls, so that's still 10 points behind the...
but some are putting them even a little bit higher, so it depends a little bit on the poll, and,
It is, yeah. But of course, it's bad news for Emmanuel Macron, because he already said that he wants to win absolutely from Marine Le Pen, the Rassemblement National. He said it last week. And Marine Le Pen said, well, if he loses, if we become the biggest, then he needs to go, because he's turning it into a match between us and them.
And a sort of referendum on his politics as well. Well, what someone was saying as well, if Marine Le Pen puts this as a referendum, well, she would have to do, if she loses, she's going to have to live with the consequences as well. And I'm not sure that she's actually willing to step down as party leader or, withdraw herself from the political landscape here in France.
Absolutely. And somebody else who will probably have to live with consequences is Raphael Glucksmann. He's the leader of the list by the socialists, Place Publique, it's called the list. It's strange. Most of the parties, they don't use their own party names. They use names for lists, like Macron uses Renaissance. So this list with the socialists is not doing well in the polls. It's now about 5.5%. And this is important because in France, there's a threshold. If you have less than 5% of the votes, you don't get into the European Parliament. So this would mean that the Socialist Party, they are risking not to be present in the European Parliament for the first time in history, the French Socialist Party, of course. That's tricky. Then, of course, there's the Green Party. They are between 8 and 9%. And then the list of the extreme left, they are about 8%, the party led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, France Insoumise. So it's going to be a close call, especially between Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen. Sounds like the election of 2017.
We recognize, exactly. Yes. And I mean, what you can say is that if you put together the numbers for the Greens and the Socialists and the extreme left, I mean, you add up and you end up with the numbers, sort of the same numbers as the far right or the La République En Marche party.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it shows that, the left here in France is very divided and has been for a long, long time. We will see what's going to happen over these couple of weeks. There's still to go, whether this momentum for the Conservative candidate actually will continue, and if it will have an impact on those front runners or not.
Well, they have 2 weeks to seduce the voters who are not really interested in this election, right? It will probably very low voter turnout, maybe 40%.
Yeah, I think
that's a very optimistic estimate. The voter turnout will be very low. So once again, the European elections, everybody's saying, these are the most important elections in Europe since a very long time. Maybe the most important election because Europe risks to disappear. Well, I'm not that pessimistic.
People don't seem that worried.
No, not at all. But, we'll talk about it in our next episode of So French in 2 weeks about the European elections.
Now, speaking of European elections and its candidates, a little bit more than 300,000 non-French Europeans are among those who have chosen to vote in France for these European elections. Weirdly enough, most of them are Portuguese. I don't know why. Like 1/3 of them are Portuguese. But we have this series up until the elections where Julia Vier is meeting with some of the Europeans living here in Paris. Julia, who did you meet this week?
This week I met Stijn. He's not Portuguese, but he's from the Netherlands.
My name is Stijn. I'm Dutch. I'm 24 years old and I've been living in Paris for 2 years to do my master's.
Thank you for speaking to me, Stijn. Do you feel like a European?
Yes, definitely. I've been living here for almost 2 years. I've lived in Spain for 1 year, and it's so easy to decide one day, okay, I'm going to move to Paris, or I'm going to move to Spain, or to any other EU country. So I think it's the fact that we can move around so easily, you almost have to feel European.
What does it mean for you to feel European then?
I think it's something that you're feeling connected to more than just the country where you were born. Also to the other countries that are part of the European Union, and also to all the people from all these other countries. So you're part of something bigger than just your own home country.
Since you've lived in so many European countries, would you say you're Dutch or even more European than Dutch?
It's a difficult question, and definitely with the elections coming up, I've been thinking about it, and I tend to think that I'm more European than Dutch, but that in some way still doesn't feel right. So I think I should say I feel more Dutch.
You mentioned the elections. Are you going to vote?
Yes, of course. I think it's everyone's democratic duty to vote, and especially of the young people, because the last European elections saw such a low turnout, especially among young people, that it's, I think, super important that everyone goes and casts their vote for the European elections.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's visit a typical school in rural France. This is the sound of pupils going to a small town of less than 4,000 people at the foot of the Alps. 15 of these woolly friends have been registered as pupils. The school, in which only 261 children are enrolled, had been told it would have to scale back its classes because of a falling pupil number.
Yeah, with all that wool, it will probably be a very warm class, very comfortable. But sounds like a joke, but it is an initiative that came from some of the parents whose children go to this school. The children even held a welcome ceremony for their new classmates. They were officially signed up with their birth certificates. So a symbolic story, but there is a real serious problem. They call it le désert rural. More and more rural areas of France are seeing their inhabitants move to the cities. So the people who are left behind, they don't make any new children. So it's very hard for schools to survive. Some parts of rural France, there are no schools at all, because the local population is too small or too old. So children in these parts, they have to travel very far to find a school, or they are put in classes with a growing number of children. So it's a real issue.
It sounds, because we're quite often talking about the problem with too big classes in other parts of the country, where you have 35-year-olds in one classroom, and we see at the same time you have this these empty classrooms.
Empty classes, yeah, absolutely. And if you drive through France, especially in the center of the country, you can drive for very long time and you will not meet anyone, or you will see villages where everything is closed, no more post office, no more pharmacies, and now no more schools. So it is a real problem, and it's of course very expensive to keep these schools open, but it's also a chicken and an egg story, because for some people it can be interesting to move to the countryside because it's much less expensive than the big cities. But they're not going to, because there are no schools for the children, and so it's a very complicated.
So what happened with the cheap?
Well, they will attend class, I guess, but a lot of media are talking about it. So it's a way of asking attention for a very serious problem. And during his recent press conference, Emmanuel Macron, he promised that in those very empty areas of France, there will be at least one, he called it, a maison de service, so a house where the public services will be together, like a doctor, post office, maybe also schools, to fight this problem of areas where you have no public services at all. And he also promised that there would be a maximum of 24 pupils per class, but that will be for all of France. So like you just said, those big classes should become a thing of the past. But I think in those countrysides, they would be very happy if they had 24.
If they had 24, exactly.
Yeah. But it's a very complicated problem, of course, also with the aging population, and cities are attracting people. I think there's not a real long-term solution, but maybe if we make more sheep, then...
Well, maybe there are other animals that could be invited to fill up those empty seats.
Yeah. There could be a complete, it could be a reenactment of George Orwell's novel, Animal Farm, with all kinds of animals in the class. Well, this is the story of a small village, but I'm afraid this school as well will disappear.
Vous écoutez So French. You are listening to So French.
Now next, from Panama to the Seychelles, through Liechtenstein and Singapore, from shell companies to Swiss bank accounts. It's a trip around the world for the criminal court here in Paris, which this week started digging into the life and businesses of Patrick and Isabelle Balkany.
Yeah, they are the mayor and the deputy mayor of Levallois-Perret, a very wealthy suburb directly west of Paris. Very small suburb, but with a lot of people, about 60, 70,000 people.
Very pretty.
Very pretty, but it's pretty because they spend a lot of money.
There has been made big investments.
It's very clean and it's very comfortable. So, but of course, this money comes from somewhere, and that's what this court case is about. The couple, the Balkany's, they have been in power in the town since the early 1980s. They're now prosecuted in 2 cases, tax evasion and money laundering, aggravated tax evasion, and they're also suspected of having concealed from the tax administration assets of at least 13 million euros. Now,
that is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money if you
was
just
at
a simple
cafe
mayor.
this morning, and the discussions around the bar and the cafe was like, 1 million euros, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
13 million euros.
Yeah, and Isabelle Balkany, so the wife of Patrick Balkany, she was known of going to the supermarket on Friday with 500 euro notes, and to exchange those notes in smaller notes. And now these notes will disappear in Europe because they're so much used by criminals, because it's very easy. It's very easy to transport a lot of money. But that was not the only thing. They will also have to explain the origin of the funds that allowed them to acquire a villa in Saint-Martin in the French Caribbean and a huge riad in Marrakesh. And they're also accused of having undervalued their Giverny property, this very small, cute village that was made famous by the painter Monet. Absolutely, yeah. They have a mill there, the Balkany's. So,
and what they've been saying, just to give sort of the background, is that these property it doesn't belong to them.
Yeah,
right.
They'll have all kinds of very sophisticated.
It belongs to other people,
yeah.
But weirdly enough, they have the right to be there whenever they want, and but
exactly. So of course it's all a way of hiding money, and they have been in power over the last 4 decades. Now the thing is, they have become the image of corrupt politicians, and there are quite a few actually in France. But how is it possible that they're still in power?
But it is a big question, because they have been re-elected over and over again, and the fact of the matter is that they have done a lot for the town, Levallois, where they are in power. And this is a town where you have a lot of the public services are for free, and you have a very comfortable life, etc. So I think that, people who live there see them as, okay, well, we are not sure exactly how legal things are behind, what decisions that are made, etc. They're also known for having put their own friends and family in very important key positions in the city. But at the same time, if you look at the results, life is pretty comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a very nice city. Yeah.
So I guess that people there isn't this big revolution and people demanding for these politicians to step down or man up to what they're accused of, etc. It's pretty calm.
It is, yeah. It's a typical case of clientelisme. So he just buys his voters, actually.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen after this trial. It's going to go on for at least 6 weeks, and we'll see at the end of this trial and whatever comes out during it if the inhabitants of Levallois is going to change their position regarding their own political power couple.
Yeah, Patrick Balkany risks 10 years imprisonment and Isabelle Balkany 5 years, but Patrick Balkany doesn't really seem to care because he will be standing next year again in 2020 when there are new local elections, and he wants to become again the mayor of Levallois-Perret, where he's already in charge since the 1980s. So this is the corrupt court case of the Balkanies. And it's that time of the year again for the 72nd year, almost in a row, because there wasn't in the Second World War. It's time for Cannes.
Yes.
The film festival.
The film festival. Are you going, Stefan?
No, unfortunately, I wanted to go, but I'm too busy. So for the red carpet. But this year, for the first time, people who attend the festival, they can listen to us on World Radio Paris, because we are being broadcast
exactly.
at the Riviera.
Okay, one good reason to go to Cannes, because
Absolutely.
you can listen to us and you don't miss out on anything.
No.
Yes, 72nd edition, 2 weeks of cinema galore.
Yeah, absolutely. Much has changed in the world of cinema over the last years, but Cannes, it seems that Cannes is always Cannes. Last year there was a lot to do about the lack of women.
Well, it was a lot like post-Me Too
Absolutely.
Talk as well. You had this big event where more than 80 or 82 to be exact, women staged a protest on the red carpet, and that to show that, there has only been 82 movies by women directors in competition over 71 years, just to compare the number of male directors. Do you know, Stefan?
I don't know, hundreds?
Yeah, well, 1,600.
Wow, incredible. So it's not even, it's like 5%.
One woman has won, one female
Only
director.
one woman?
One female director has won the Palme d'Or, and that was Jane Campion in 1993. This year, though, still very few women in competition. You have 3 female directors, and out of the 21 that are in the official competition. But what many are saying is that, the problem is not so much the movies that are in the competition, etc., but, the whole thing has to come from underneath. And since a couple of years, the jury and the selection, those who made the selection for the Cannes Film Festival, is actually at a 50-50.
Okay, that's a small step. But still, it's hard for women to get their projects financed.
Yes, women in general their projects get much less money. They have a bigger difficulty of finding any money. And even when you look at the budgets for movies directed by women, it's like a third of what the average of a male director. So there's a long way to go. But there is one thing that has changed for this year's Cannes Film Festival. It has very little to do with the movies, etc.
But it has to do with women, though, because this year, if you have an accreditation, you can also bring your kids, because there's a breastfeeding and a baby changing area, a dedicated kids pavilion. Of course, that's the big question every year. What do we do with the kids with this year's Cannes Film Festival? Well, there's now easy access for parents with young children. And it's called Le Ballon Rouge. That's a famous movie from the 1950s here in France. And there are also nannies for after-hours care. So something is changing. It is a little bit of, getting modern. It's
getting a bit more modern, and maybe adapting to the fact that, there's a real life as well, even for actors and actresses and directors. And everybody involved in the cinema. There is a real life,
absolutely,
even for them.
And what about the movies this year? What films have been selected? Which ones are you going to see, for instance?
But there, you have those with the big directors that everybody's talking about. Of course, you have Xavier Dolan coming out with a new movie.
Almost every year.
Well, he's extremely productive. He's only 30, just just to remind people. But I don't know how many movies he's done, but many. You have Terrence Malick also returning to Cannes. Jim Jarmusch's The Dead Don't Die.
I've seen the trailer.
With the poster.
Crazy.
That you just can't believe that many famous actors can be united in one movie. I don't know, they're going to get 10 seconds each?
Yeah, it's a zombie film.
It's a zombie film, exactly. That is, by the way, the opening film. But I must say there is one movie that actually interests me the most this year, and it's not a famous director. His name is Lajli. He's French, and he's presenting Les Misérables, not Les Misérables as Victor Hugo as we know it, but it's actually a movie based on the 2005 riots and the police violence that led to the riots in the Parisian suburbs then now almost 15 years ago. And what's interesting, the film is interesting in itself. It's actually it was from the beginning a short film that was extended and done because it was quite successful, and now it's been made into a full movie. But it's also the whole project behind it, because Lajli, he's grown up in this French neighborhood, Cité des Bosquets, or the Clichy, outside of Paris.
Where the riots started in
exactly.
2005.
And the fact is that he actually, he was interested in movies, and when, the riots started literally outside of his door, he started filming, and he filmed for more than a year after those riots. So it's really a movie about the suburbs and about the problems and life in the suburbs, but done by the people who live there. He hasn't gone to any of the famous French cinema schools. He's self-taught, and he has a real project of, sharing his passion and his knowledge of cinema with people in these neighborhoods. And he has, just to say it also, he's put up this cinema school in Clichy-Montfermeil for kids and for, not only kids, for older people as well, to learn how to make cinema. But for people who would not necessarily apply for the big, for the traditional schools, and most of all, probably never be accepted to those. So it's an interesting director. It's an interesting project. And I think it sounds like an interesting movie.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it sort of shows that there are things happening and moving and changing, in the world of cinema. He himself, I saw an interview where he said that, the traditional film, French cinema, it doesn't speak to me at all. I find it boring. This maybe shows that, we can see something, another side of life in France.
Yeah, so the very interesting project, Les Misérables. And apart from that, there are also new films by Almodovar, Ken Loach, you already mentioned Terrence Malick. So Quentin Tarantino, of course, we shouldn't forget him. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's exactly 25 years ago that he won the Golden Palm in Cannes with Pulp Fiction. So he's always very often in Cannes as well. So very interesting lineup this year, but it's still a very traditional festival. The festival will last till the 25th of May, and I think in our next episode of So French we will probably discuss the winners and maybe also the losers.
Now, every 2 years, the French government can select one candidate for the Unesco Intangible Cultural Heritage List. At the end of this month, the new candidate for this world-famous list will be announced. First of all, what is an intangible cultural heritage, Stefan?
Well, it's a list with all kinds of traditions, places all around the world.
Maybe not too confused, maybe with the cultural heritage sites, which is
that's a bit
buildings
different.
And
Absolutely.
venues or whatever,
like the Chinese wall and stuff like that. So, but this is the intangible cultural list. Could also be songs or habits, and there are 3 candidates. We are users of at least 2 of them, I think, regularly. These are the nominees. The French Baguette, the Parisian bistro, and the Parisian bouquinistes. Now, the last one, I know them, but actually I must admit I never go there, although I love books. But the bouquinistes, of course, are the small booksellers that line the river, the Seine, and they operate from their famous green boxes already for 2 centuries. They can be opened and easily be pulled out. And they are seeking the UNESCO glory in recognition of their profession and as a symbolic status in the French capital and cultural and intellectual life, of course, because they're in the heart of the city, selling books. That's very symbolic.
Well, in these Amazon times, it's probably not a very easy.
Pretty difficult to make a living, and of course they hope their new status will attract customers because they are fighting for survival. People buy fewer books. A lot of people buy online books or e-books. And as one of them put it in the French media this week, we are dinosaurs and all things are no longer interesting to people because they mainly sell secondhand books or photographs or drawings or paintings even. But, probably they earn most of their money with souvenirs, unfortunately. But officially, they are not allowed to sell more than a quarter of their boxes to souvenirs. But then it's very difficult to make a living because they are passionate about books. Because if you go there and in the winter and the rain, it's a tough job. I imagine many of them are retired people, but they still want to. They're sort of addicted to be there.
It's very much part of the city, if you think Paris, you think Notre Dame and, La Seine, and you immediately have this image of the bouquinistes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very much part of the city itself.
Yeah, and a lot of people pass by as well because it's really in the heart of all the tourist attractions. So they have many passers-by, but I think they don't sell a lot. So this is the bouquinistes. If you're in Paris, go see them and buy an old book. Prices start at sometimes 50 cents, really cheap. But they want to be on the Unesco list, together with?
Well, the bistro.
The bistro.
The French restaurant, kind of like everyday restaurant where you get... where you get
a good meal for a decent price.
Exactly. Yeah. And there is this whole, neo-bistro movement where these restaurants who had a bit of a bad reputation for quite some time are now getting a revamp, you could say, with younger chefs and trying to, use these old traditional dishes, but in a slightly, newer version, I'd say it. But bistro, bouquinistes, and the baguette. Well, everybody knows what the baguette is. Yeah. Does it need a protection from UNESCO?
I don't have the impression because there's so many bakeries in Paris, and I have the impression that they're more and more, and they're more and more upscale as well. It's no longer the baguette, the boulangeries, the bakeries used to be a little bit shabby, but now a lot of bakeries are very posh or hipster, and I don't really see why this should be on the list. Of course, it's a cliche: a Frenchman, a beret, and of course a baguette under the arm,
and a striped shirt. So who's behind whom here? I heard Emmanuel Macron. He's supporting the baguette. Okay. Right? Is that it? And then...
the French president will then meet the mayor on his road because Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, she has chosen the side of the Parisian bistro. And then there's the other institution, l'Académie Française, also set
maybe because it's a complicated word and it needs to be kept in the dictionary.
Yeah, maybe
I don't know.
Actually, bouquiniste comes from a Dutch word because bouquin means small book. And that comes from the Dutch. So it's not even a French word. But the Académie Française, they are 100% behind the bouquiniste.
And Stefan, who are you behind that?
I like to eat a baguette while reading a book in a bistro. So I'm not out. I like all three of them. I don't know. I would say I don't see the bistro as typically Parisian because you have them in many cities, but it's hard to choose. Let me choose for the bouquiniste. I think they're the most threatened ones. And you, Sarah?
I think I go for the bouquinistes as well. I think I think indeed there is a threat and there's a need for them to be some protected and maybe it will allow them to get some more help as well, in continuing what they're doing and participating in still making Paris this, quite cozy and, literate, city that it has always been.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that wraps up this edition of So French. We hope you have enjoyed it. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. And we are also on Instagram. Our account there is @SoFrenchNews. So please follow us.
And if you like French music, check out our free playlist on Spotify, which we update regularly. Just search for So French Music or click the link on our website. And if you would like to contact us, please mail us on news@sofrench.news.
And you can also listen to us on air on World Radio Paris, not only in the Paris region, but also at the Côte d'Azur around Monaco, Nice and Cannes.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode of So French.
We hope you'll join us then. Thanks for listening.
Au revoir.